To members in the advanced grades, the names of several of the masters will be familiar. Among them, that of the Master Moria. From what we have read about him, he is a man of very striking appearance, of great personal power, with a style of utterance noted for its sententiousness, insight, and wisdom. And he is credited with the following cryptic words: to behold with the eyes of the heart, to listen with the ears of the heart to the roar of the world, to peer into the future with the comprehension of the heart, to remember the cumulations of the past through the heart. Thus must one impetuously advance upon the path of ascent. In my contact with members in the past, I have been acutely aware that the approach of some to their studies has been almost entirely a mental one. I know that individual temperament will strongly influence the kind of approach a student will make to his work. Some are almost entirely mental in approach, while others are mainly emotional. The best results do not come from either a purely mental or an emotional attitude. Few combine both in a harmonious development, but no serious student will progress far on the path without coming to realize that to be simply an introvert of the head is to close the door upon most valuable experience. If there is to be a balanced and useful development, he must also recognize the singular virtue in being an extrovert of the heart. We have always thought of the masters as being men of compassion. Indeed, they are often called the masters of compassion. This applies, of course, mainly to the Buddha and Christ. And as the masters are acknowledged disciples of these two great ones, we cannot think of them other than men of compassion, which means that with all their extensive knowledge and wisdom, an all-inclusive love is also theirs. This is plainly evidenced in the first sentence of the quotation, to behold with the eyes of the heart. Now, this is just what was not evident in some of the members I mentioned. They beheld truly with the eyes of the mind. They were very satisfied that they could see their way so clearly and rightly. They were focused on the mental plane, cold, detached, concentrated, and that seemed to them all that was necessary. I have nothing to say against that, except that they appeared to me to be looking away from Buddha and Christ, away from the way of compassion, and feeling their sense of power and efficiency in trying to achieve personal supremacy in their own chosen direction. It is true that many go that way for years, until life itself, under the increased tempo of their aspiration, teaches a sharp lesson. For life is very far from being an affair of the head only. Sooner or later, the heart of life demands recognition. And if it has been ignored, experiences, painful and revealing, will come and compel them to behold with the eyes of the heart. That is the first step towards a balanced development. And why should this not be so? Soul culture, progress on the path, The search after deeper knowledge and understanding of self does not fall within the same category as scientific, artistic, or literary research. This kind of research may be pursued without any thought or reference other than to personal culture and achievement. It is part and parcel of the ambitious life of millions of men aiming at legitimate success in the world. But mystical development is not the ambition of millions. It is the aim of the few. And it has far more stringent rules to comply with. The first of which is equipment for personal and unique service to others. We cannot adequately serve others unless we behold them with the eyes of the heart. We shall never understand or help them truly if we are simply introverts of the head. The secrets of men are not in their heads, but in their hearts. And it is there we have to look for them, feel them, and know them. Now the next statement in the quotation. Listen with the ears of the heart to the roar of the world. The roar of the world is continually in our ears. We are so accustomed to it that we take little notice of it. But to listen and try to interpret it with the ears of the heart opens a door to closer identification of ourselves with humanity. What does the incessant clamor mean for the millions who participate in and cause it? What a contrast with the silent hour of meditation of the monk in his retreat, the mystic and the solitary in their hushed retirement. Karma conditions the one and the other, and while our special interest may naturally turn towards those who view the silence like ourselves, we need an inspired thinking and a live compassion for the multitudes who make our own lives possible in the midst of the turmoil. Do not overlook the concentrated toil, the burden of responsibility, the anxious efforts for adjustment of these multitudes who maintain the sound foundation and harmonious working of our so-called civilized life. Try to realize its manifold functioning and interpret it in the terms of the heart's stresses involved in it. We are a part of it, even when we try to avoid it. But the true mystic can never ignore it without deep loss to himself. In the words of a scripture, he dare not ignore the beauty and obscurity of those other divine fragments which are struggling side by side with him and form the race to which he belongs. I need not say that the mystic way does not become easier through this willful descent into the heart and sensing life from that sensitive center. No, indeed. Rather, it adds a burden to our journey. But if we have a call to the mystical life, we must be ready to comply with the conditions of it. It is our own choice. Many on the path have refused to accept this indication of the heart as their teacher. They have realized that to do so would stiffen the way of ascent. They have feared the penalties of increased sensitivity which they knew it would bring. Yet the Master has this sensitivity in perfection by virtue of accepting these conditions all along the way. And it seems to me that if one really has a call to the way, he must discount the cost and be grateful for the rare opportunity of an incarnation. These thoughts lead us to the next statement: to peer into the future with the comprehension of the heart. This is a master thought, and envisages a far reach of the path. Only an illuminated heart can exercise that high prerogative. Nor should we attempt to exercise it before the time. If we do, whether from ambition or presumption, we shall make mistakes and lead ourselves and possibly others astray. Even the culture of the heart for an incarnation may not confer this prerogative. And it is well that this may be so. For to see the evolving karma awaiting us and others requires a balanced development of mind and heart, which is all too rare on the path. How many of us, seeing the shadows on the path ahead, or the surrender of self to be demanded at a high portal, would yet go forward with inflexible will and purpose, and not be checked by the voice of personality. It is amazing what some aspirants think they should be able to do after a few years of study of the way. It was the failing of some highly intellectual men connected in the early years with the theosophical movement in India. They demanded high privileges for which they were unready, and instead of exercising a wise humility and patience, and being quite unprepared to peer into the future with the comprehension of the heart, they had recourse to spiritualism and the seance room, as if that byway of doubtful repute could make them as wise as their masters. To remember the accumulations of the past through the heart. At first sight, I thought we were on safer ground with this statement than with that on the future. But clearly, the reference here is to the karma of former cycles, not merely of the present one. And we see at once how very rare will be those who can review the broad sweep of past lives and see how they have fashioned the men they are. I know it is common enough for aspirants to feel pretty sure about their past incarnations, basing their conclusions upon certain features and attainments in their present cycle. I must confess that I have always been skeptical when meeting with those who have the greatest assurance about their storied past. As in the case of peering into the future, I think a like well-balanced development is necessary in envisaging the past. There will be much awaiting the aspirant, inscribed in that record of thought and action of past times, and destined to come to fruition now and later, which, if prematurely known, might destroy his peace of mind and the steadiness of his immediate progress. Here again, as regarding knowledge of the future, we may repose in the thought that the cosmic powers to whom we look for guidance will not lift the veil and reveal that which we have not won the right and strength to know and face with courage and compassion. Why do I say compassion on coming to this, the final statement of the quotation? Thus must one impetuously advance upon the path of ascent. Primarily because it points to what we need to culture for in the immediate present. The word impetuously arrests my attention in the quotation. The towering presence and the rather severe aspect of the Master M give special significance to the word. Peremptory in speech and swift in action, the word impetuously suitably expresses his powerful will. But I would not use it as a word of guidance to aspirants generally. To advance impetuously with a strong background of mature development which knows itself, sees before and after, can stand against all odds, can rightly judge, thrust aside all obstacles, and demand for itself the strongest discipline from life and karma? Surely this can only be a wise procedure for the very few. It would only be a fitting procedure for a close and accepted disciple of the Master, to whom the whole teaching in this quotation was familiar and practically demonstrable. For ourselves, we shall be safer on humbler ground. That is why I mention compassion. For there is an attainable stage of ripe development possible and needful for an aspirant, when a deep and divine compassion pervades his attitude toward the world of human existence. It is not an easy attainment. The years must have taken their hard toll with him before the awakened heart comes to that point of long-range vision of lives fighting for they scarcely know what, towards a goal they cannot see. The mind alone can never meet them face to face. It is far too circumscribed and unsympathetic. If anyone thinks he will attain these graces of the inner man through logical exercise and mental acumen, the passing years will disillusion him. The heart, not the brain, is the center of life. And no matter how high he may have ascended in the realm of fact, he will have to descend and wash his feet in the blood of the heart. That in itself will revolutionize his manner of approach to life. But he should not wait for this to be forced upon him, as it certainly will be if he petitions for advancement. He should try day by day to measure and judge all things and all people through the fire of the heart. He will only see things as they are and evoke from others what is in them by the magnetic radiation of the heart. According to the depths of experience we have sounded through the awakened and compassionate heart, will be the response we shall obtain from those who have this latent experience in themselves and only need the right stimulus to express it. I am saying nothing new. We know the books that make us think. The books that move and stimulate us belong to a different class. We know the people who make us think. How many do you know whose vibration kindles the fire of the heart and evokes the best we know in thought and action? I make this contrast designedly because we live in a scientific period when science is reaching its high altitudes and its influences worldwide. No matter what its value, in some respects, its influence is a sinister one. The mind, not the heart, is in the ascendant, and spirituality is at a discount, at a dead end. So true is this that the general public shows a profound fear at the advance of science. Not, but far from it, is it showing a similar concern at the absence of interest in the life of a spiritual man. It is only concerned that the discoveries and exploits of the scientists shall not bring ruin and destruction upon its present way of life. But the awakened and compassionate heart to which the Master refers is the offspring not of fear, but of a spiritual consciousness which places its hope in an ascendancy to the high altitudes of the spirit. And this is what we are pledged to. And whatever the future in the hands of science may bring, we must keep our eyes and ears intent upon the revelation which can come only from within. We must interrogate the heart in all things and use the mind to execute with understanding and compassion what the heart reveals. This is what the Master enjoins. And in trying to give it practical effect in our daily contact with others, we shall reach a point of attainment where we may safely, impetuously advance on the path of ascent. And our power of service will be vastly increased to the profit of many.